Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing today? Hope you all slept well, or are going to sleep well, or enjoying whatever it is you're doing. Oh, looks like I'm lagging because they're the headbands. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing? You're in uni right now. Turn me on max volume and just have them listen to the deep voice VTuber. You're listening to BB No Money. Valid. Here, let me adjust real quick. There we go. Good morning, Exoro. Welcome to your first stream. I hope you enjoy your time here. It's been a while since I've gotten to do a calm, chill morning stream because I was not here on Friday due to oversleeping. Then Saturday and Sunday went by so quickly with the more energetic streams. So now we're back on Monday. But it's nice. It's nice to be chillier. Oh, your friends? Hello, Terrified's friends. What nerds sitting around smoking, watching VTuber. But I'm always happy to be shared. Wait. Oh, you be good. Now, good morning, Dwarf. Thank you for being first. Good morning, Rengoku's wifey. Oh, hey, it's been a little bit. I hope you're doing okay. Thank you for being second and third. Big greedy. Big greedy. Thank you for checking in, Dwarf. And so good morning, Dwarf. And this is Pogo. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm going to go through everyone who checked in and say good morning. Good morning, Pandragon and Casey. Good morning, Yoshiko. Yoshihiko. Silverwing Rose. And Apocalypse. Cheshire Bones. And Julia. Today we're going to be playing a little crime scene cleaner. Because it is my addiction this morning. Here, we'll hang out in the cute scene for a little while. Let me just load it up real quick. See, not everything on stream is all cages and evil. We also have relaxing spaces like this one. Oh, I don't have my overlay up, do I? Oh, my voice makes you feel bisexual instead of straight. You can also just enjoy my voice without being attracted to it. It takes a big man to admit when they find another man attractive. Not that I mind. Not that I mind at all. Thank you for the check-in, Sinful Microwave. Been seeing you all over the place. Yes, it is 3:46 a.m. for me. And thank you for the follow. Let me mute the notification sound effect because I forgot all about that. Bite me, Jesse. What a nice name. Why are we in the bedroom? Because it's morning. Today's a sweet day. I'm doing good. Jinxie, how are you doing? I know you had a rough day yesterday. So I hope your day is going a little bit better today. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to play this game one day. I might start playing some of these games that I've been thinking about for like years. I've just been like, this sounds interesting, but I just never played it. Because we're EP? Fair enough. Fair enough. Alright. Crime scene cleaner. Of course, of course, of course. I'm glad to hear that. You know, apparently last night I got a message, and someone said that they used me as an example of a streamer doing very well and kind of doing the right things. And it was very, very flattering. But I will say, remember that being a streamer, if you want to be a streamer, is not about just putting effort in. It's about putting the time to really understand what you're doing, to look at the actions you're taking. Sorry, this thing just fell from my cabinet. 1 second. But yes, look at the actions you're taking and make sure that the effort that you're putting in is changing. So often I see streamers who put all their effort into doing the same thing over and over and over again and wonder why they don't improve. But that never works. Try things, try 100 things, try 1,000 things. And when you find the thing that starts working, start pushing it. See what you can do with it. But I do plan on trying to do a whole panel at Offkai about this, so hopefully that goes well. One second, I need to make sure the audio is coming through properly. Alright, let me swap to the game window. There we go, I think that's a good volume. But if it's too loud, please let me know, okay? Thank you. We have a few different layouts. Would y'all be interested in a little guide on streaming from me at some point? I think I'm one of the there's something I realized one day. I'm glad to hear that, Julia. You should never ask a person at the height of the career what's most important to their success. Because, strangely enough, the thing that is most important to someone's success is not the thing that got them success. What I mean by that, if I were to ask you right now, what was most important to my growth as a streamer? What do you think I would say? I mean, there's only one thing that had the biggest impact on my streaming, and it was social media. Doing the TikTok and having this fun little bit that I do. Exactly. And this fun little bit is great and it has led to the most growth. But if I just started streaming one day and started doing the whole cage bit right from the very beginning, it would not have gone well. It would not have allowed me to just skip my way. Good morning, sleep demons. As much as I would wish it would. And the same thing is with so many streamers when they're like, oh yeah, the way I had all my big growths was I leveraged multiple platforms, I made this series, and that's what did really well for me. And the thing is, when you start streaming, you're not going to know exactly how to be a great content creator. You're going to start like everyone else does, and you're going to see what all the big streamers are doing, and you're going to imitate what they're doing. But they've had months, years to find their voice. Even the streamers that start and become big out of nowhere. I have a friend who did that. She not only had done streaming before for a little while, but she'd spend years doing singing lessons, being in the VTuber community, being an entertainer in other spaces. And the fact is, the only reason she was able to capitalize on other actions in VTubing is because she had such experience with being an entertainer before that. But if you come at VTubing brand new, fresh, and you try to be her, you're just going to be disappointed it didn't happen as fast as her. That was lovely noise. So instead what you need to do is you start working on yourself as a streamer. You learn the skills. One of the biggest things I can say is if you cannot stand in a room or on a stream for 2 hours in silence, maybe background music like lo-fi, and just talk and be entertaining. If you cannot be entertaining in silence without a single viewer, then it does not matter what else you're going to do, because you do not have the skills needed to be a streamer yet. The earliest thing I can say for anyone wanting to start streaming is to learn that skill, just chatting. Go onto a stream, any stream, just start any stream, start in the just chatting category, and talk. And learn how to talk, and learn how to branch off conversations, and learn how to be the focal point even when talking about other things. It's hard if you don't know how to start it. But if you go at it with smart effort, you'll do a lot better. I'll show you an example. Another friend I have had been streaming for years, and she'd been doing everything wrong. Everything wrong.
It's never too old to have fun, huh?
She went on to stream and talked to everybody like they're in the room with her. She would change games and focus on trying to chase down the biggest games at the time. She focused only on doing collabs and other sort of streams, and the thing is, she never grew as herself. She never improved herself. She spent so much money on getting new models, new backgrounds, new arts, and then always felt disappointed when things did not turn out the way that she was expecting. People will do these big debuts and then be amazed nobody shows up. Just thinking that because all they're seeing is these streamers do debuts and have these massive blow-ups and growths and all sorts of things. But they don't see the effort put in behind the scenes. Well, I took that streamer. I said, hey, we're going to start you off fresh. I'm going to buy you a pre-made model. You're going to go and you're going to do just chatting. You're going to stream You're going to think of the people who come in as fans, not friends. Thank you for the hydrate. And you're just going to stream 1 hour a day for a week. Every day, same time, no change. And within the first week, she gained like 4, 5, 6 viewers. But they're coming back every day. And she's getting used to talking to them, and she'd bring up things that she liked to talk about. And she learned the things that she enjoyed speaking about and teaching people about and interacting about. Instead of constantly trying to change herself to fit the people who are coming into the stream, she worked on herself. And soon she started getting like 20 and 30 viewers in some streams. She still has her 10 viewer streams. But she's getting a lot better. And now that she's gotten to the point where she's having that consistent viewership,
Till the death do us part.
it's now she can start taking... now she can start taking the focus on really growing and establishing what her brand is. But if she'd started there, it would have been a lot of effort with no real point. But yeah, I'm gonna do a whole panel on it. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Streaming is a skill, and streaming skill is more important than the content skill at the beginning. I mean, the amount of videos that I see people making as a streamer that really doesn't help them at all. I think one of my biggest things is, if you're looking at your content, you're streaming, and you took you out of it, you removed your face, your character, your identity from the stream, and you put somebody else there, and the stream would be exactly the same, then you're not doing it right. You know what I'm saying? Talking to the void scares you? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard. And it takes a while to get able to maintain your ideas and talk straight. And when a new streamer comes in, or a new viewer comes in, it's so exciting to have a friend that you can talk to. But the problem is, if you're just talking to them like a conversation, no one else has a way to get into the conversation. That's a private conversation. You can do things like this. Instead of you in conversation, like any message as conversation, notice here, sinful, I'm using your conversation as a jumping off point. That is a skill that needs to be learned by every VTuber. Because as much as I love my community, for my streams I am the focus. Anyone can do it. It just takes practice. Why is my voice so good? Some training. Some natural gift. The vocal cords are just 2 slabs of meat in your throat, pushing air past them. And the thing is, you can tune them however you want. The voice needs to be tuned. And you can change your voice. Trans people do it all the time. Anyone can. I'd say
Should have stuck to a good proven stuff.
streaming, you can stream just for fun. But let's make sure that you aren't streaming what you want to be streaming, and that you have a point behind your streaming. Because even a hobby you might not want to make a hobby a job, but you still want to show off that hobby, right? Like if you do, let's say you're doing pottery, you still want to make the best pottery you can. It's a creative endeavor to grow and to see things and make something cool. And you want to hang out with people. So you want to make the best product you can, even if you're not going to sell it. Yeah, I can vouch that you can change your voice if you really want to. And yes, Chub, I am. I mean, you've heard all the voices I can do. And the fact is, your voice is a amalgamation of the voices you grew up with. If you have a parent with a very high-pitched voice or an accent, you imitate that, and you hear other people's voices. But your voice will change when you hang out with other people. In fact, they find that every household has its own vocal dialect, which is interesting if you think about it. There are certain words, phrases, pacing, the way you talk changes based on who you're around. And people who live in the same household all the time start talking a little bit closer and more similar as time passes. You want a manly boy voice, you can get there. Now remember, the deepness of your voice is going to be determined by how long your vocal cords and loose they are. There's only so much you can loosen your vocal cords. And so there'll be only so low you can go. But remember, like my voice, though it's deep, it's more of the rumble, the smooth, the slowness that gives it its quality. When I speak faster and I get more excited during the afternoon streams, though it's the same voice, it is very, very different. And so I'm not saying put on an e-boy voice or put gravel to your voice, but it's learning how to hold your vocal cords, which takes time, takes effort, takes knowledge and understanding. But if you ever look at like vocal lessons, especially for trans femmes, they talk a lot about adjusting where your vocal cords are placed. Obviously, don't take the advice if you want to go deeper, but understanding where it is can help a lot with how you sound. Thank you for that, Bats. Hello, I need some friends. I hope you find some. But genuinely, if you all ever have any questions about content creation or whatever, especially in my morning streams, I'm all for them. Voice acting or anything else. I like talking, as you've noticed. You know, I used to be afraid of streaming. Oh, for the longest time. For every stream started, I'd get this anxious feeling. Editing? What do you mean? You mean for like... Thank you for the follow. For... Welcome to the Menagerie, Butterfly. For like TikToks and stuff, or... Oh. Let me think. Because I can answer that two ways. I mean, every time I tried to make something, I put some effort into it, you know. I check some boxes. For instance, subtitles is always a must. Because subtitles allow people who are, you know, maybe quietly listening to TikToks or even muting their TikToks to get into all the content. And I only really started focusing on social media, though, when I felt like I had gotten to a point where I was having some real growth in other places. Like I felt that what I was making here was something I could be proud of and that I wanted to show other people. And I knew that I'd kind of reached the end of what Twitch could provide. Because as much as people say Twitch is not a good platform for growth, if you're putting regular effort in and you are creating something that is entertaining, you'll gain maybe 1, 2, 5 followers a stream just off of Twitch alone. But if you notice my streams, my TikTok content, I don't do a lot of editing. I don't make clips. Because as much as I like making clips and streaming content and, just taking what you have on stream and throwing it on a screen, look at that content and tell me really what makes you want to go to that streamer. For instance, a ha-ha funny moment. If you think it's funny, the only reason you're going to go to that content creator's page is because you want to be part of that funny moment. But you've already taken the best of your stream, put it on TikTok or YouTube. There's nothing else for them to gain by coming to your stream. You've made the edited content, it's done. They don't need to do anything else. It doesn't sell yourself, your personality, who you are as a streamer. It just tells them that you have a decent sense of humor. But what really started showing me growth, change, people wanting to come from one platform to another platform, is when I sold my personality. When I showed off my humor and the weird ideas I have. Because they're like, oh, I like this idea, this seems fun, goofy, I want to interact with this. Let me go see the person who makes this so I can see what they are one-on-one in a normal stream. And not everyone likes it. Maybe they'll just stay to my streams. My TikToks, sorry, not the streams. But then there's others. So many of you who are now here permanently. And if only I could find this stupid furniture piece that I'm looking for. Is that one of the chairs? That's probably one of the chairs. Well, I hope you get more sleep. Any other questions? Honestly, though, that's bringing back the initial point of, if you can replace the content you make and put anyone in there. Oh, this is crime scene cleaner. If you can replace the content that you make right now, put anyone else in there, then it kind of shows you that you need to work on the content you're making. That's why things like lore videos, talking head videos do so well, because they show off the uniqueness of you. They don't rely on being funny or goofy. They rely on just you. Good to know, chat. Don't talk to ducks. I'm glad, Butterfly. Glad you enjoy my voice. What am I missing here? And there's one piece of furniture somewhere out here that is missing. Somewhere. I refuse to give up. We're going to get all of it. Hello, duck. If I was furniture, where would I be? Oh, there? What is that? Oh, piece of trash. Oh, cool, Catherine. I look forward to seeing that. Okay, clearly I'm missing it here. Quack, 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 quack. I'll say I thought the fake voice reveal was funny, but a lot of people either didn't get it or didn't like it. Some thought that was my real voice actually, when I did the nerdy voice. I feel like that one should have done better. Let me think. Okay, we're missing one chair. Where is this furniture? Can I have Pendragon? Or, of course, I like my demo reel, though I think I need to remake that because my email is wrong in it. No, and I like the mentality one. See, that really kind of proves it. Okay, so we're missing a chair. If I were... It's not one of you, was it? Thank you for the follow, My Chemical Flame. I did one that was a Gene mentality, where it was just little funny clips from my streams, and I thought it was fun, but it did not do as well. Which thought that really kind of proves my point, though. When I did those, I had a few TikToks that were just like really funny bits from my stream, like the Garo Jarlik and the one about me knocking cans over on my desk. And while they were definitely funny, at least I think, it gave people nothing to really interact with. Didn't really give them anything to grab onto except, oh yeah, that's funny. Nothing to make them be like, I want to see more of this entertainer. That's not gonna... You're kidding me. Has that been up there the entire time? That's wild. Alright, fair enough. I'm glad that made you laugh. Okay, if I were to be that piece of equipment, that lamp, where would I be? Obviously not there. Oh, there it is. No. And honestly, I would tell you that streaming every day is not a way to grow at all. It gives you no benefit. I mean, the only benefit it really gives you is that you become part of people's daily routine. That's the closest it gives you, but it will not lead to success. Because I did this before. I've streamed before and done every single day streaming. And practice streaming as a skill. Practice streaming, not content creation, as a skill. Genuinely, if the one thing I would say, like, if you want to take any course, you want to learn anything as a streamer, it's not going to be editing. It's not going to be art or making anything. It is going to be an ability to improvise, to talk, to speak. So if you really want to be a good streamer, take an improv course. Because it teaches you to think on your feet, to talk, to speak, to be funny in a way that is fun. I'm not saying you have to take an improv course. I'm saying if you're going to be more of a funny streamer, improv will help. But the thing is, again, you can make 1,000 videos, but if none of them sell you as a personality, as a streamer, you're just going to be a YouTuber or a TikToker or a content creator on other platforms. And that's valid, don't get me wrong, you can totally be a content creator. If you want to just make TikToks all day and YouTube videos all day, valid, totally valid. That's allowed. One sec, we're going to listen to this guy. I mean, I've muted it so you can't hear it. But yes, being a content creator is totally valid. You can just make YouTube videos, you can do all that kind of stuff, and you can have success. But streaming is different. I've watched so many streamers who are just there to make TikTok clips and YouTube clips because that's where they get their growth from. And it is the most unbearable streams to be in. I mean, I loved their YouTube videos. I loved the content they make. I loved listening to their stories. But then you go onto their stream, they're like, oh, here's this bit. Here's this funny thing. Here's this idea. Here's this concept. Like, cool. Hi, I'm enjoying your content. Ignored. Completely ignored. It makes it like, what is the point of you being live right now? Me being here, shit doesn't change the stream at all. Anyone being here doesn't change the stream at all. So if you want to be a content creator, be a content creator. I like doing both, but that's why I don't do clips. If you notice, none of my content on TikTok or anything are clips. Most of my content are bits, comedy sketches, different ideas I work on. I love streaming. Oh, streaming is so great for me because, I mean, streaming satisfies my ability, my want to be creative, my need to interact with others and have this kind of growth, and I can do something, put effort in, and get something back.
I believe that none of them came here to admire the art.
I love... This is a massive place. Holy crap. I love gaming. And honestly, gaming lost a lot of its enjoyment for me a while back, so streaming brought it back. I love acting, and streaming has allowed me to do some of that. I like writing. Streaming has allowed me to do that. Exactly. I love doing content. I like doing all of it. All of it's a lot of fun. I feel like it's the best way to really do it. That is a fun art piece, actually. Have you ever been to like a cool conceptual art gallery? I'm working on a novel and writing some horror and doing a lot of different things. Yeah. And here's the thing, right now my concept is going to be very like vague. Because I'm kind of just ad-libbing right now.
It's not how it usually works.
Oh, that is cool. Wait a second. Oh, I like that. I'll have to do a whole, like, thing on it. I'm currently working on writing, like, a whole, my understanding of streaming, because I've streamed for a long time. I've been a VTuber for a short time, But I've tried streaming so many different ways, and I tried to do all of the things that streamers say to do. And the fact is, if you ask somebody who's already succeeded how to succeed, they're only going to tell you what the biggest thing that they did was. So yeah. Oh, that's cool. I love big room spaces like this for concept pieces. And that's the thing, like when you're talking to people about streaming, again, they're going to tell you what the biggest thing that they did that changed them. But the biggest thing is not the first thing you should do. I know some content creators, like the way I had my most success was by streaming to make content. Well, yeah, but it's going to be a numbers game at that point. You know.
Someone didn't get along with the rest of the band.
Ooh, that's a Five Nights at Freddy's reference. Oh, don't jump scare me. No jump scaring me. Okay, there you go. Like I said, I'll make a panel on it. I might be doing a panel at Off Kai. I don't remember if Off Kai is one of those that you can like attend digitally. So maybe not everyone will be able to watch it, but I will try to kind of record it afterwards. Trust me, I've seen all of the streaming advices.
Looks like a VIP area, but shouldn't it be off limits?
Oh, potato chips. I kind of want chips. Read or watch? There's always the classic thing of, do I want to tell everybody my secrets so that, or do I want to succeed first? And I'm like, no, I like sharing stuff. I like telling people things. I like teaching people things. Not everything needs to be about growing. Sometimes it's just nice to share. And if I teach somebody something and they grow from it, then I guess it proves me right. Plus, I like talking. I like making content. I like hanging out with all of you. So no matter what, I've enjoyed my time here. And the thing is, if I tell you all how to succeed, and suddenly I can no longer succeed, then let's be honest, I wasn't doing it right in the first place. I wasn't making good enough content. Maybe you missed a lot of random things. Good morning, Moby. Oops, sorry for them. I am going to start just moving these balloons. There we go. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let me just... Ah. That's another thing. Networking. Y'all want to know? I can't tell you exactly who follows me because I'm not about that. But I have some really big VTubers who follow some of my accounts. And I even asked one of them, like, hey, why are you following me? And she was like, oh, I like sketches. I like sketch comedy. And she has 200,000 followers on TikTok. More on Twitch. Streams with some of the biggest VTubers out there. And she follows 19 people on TikTok. And I'm one of them. And all it took to get her attention was making something that I enjoyed making. Now the thing is, I could try to, milk that situation. I could try to use her for networking and all that. But the thing is, do you really want a viewer that's only there because you streamed with somebody else? People talk constantly about like a big break. And big breaks don't exist in streaming. Because a big break only works when somebody else can do some of the success for you. What I mean by that is, actors get big breaks, music groups get big breaks because all that they need to do is do what they do well, right? An actor just needs to act well, a musician just needs to play. And if they get signed onto a record, the record takes over. They work on the image, the branding, they sell people, they get them in front of other people. But as a streamer, as a content creator, you are your own social media. You are your branding, you are your presence, you are everything. And so if you have not done that work, you've not figured out your personality, your branding, and all that stuff, no one else is going to do it for you. You can stream, have 1 million people follow you, but if you're not making consistently good streams, people aren't going to stay. If you're not having presence on other platforms that you're maintaining, people aren't going to stay. You don't just get lucky. It takes effort, understanding, and just more effort. Learning. So fail, learn, practice, change, grow. Welcome back. Welcome back to the land of the living. Y'all are really helping me flesh out some ideas, by the way. So I hope you don't mind I'm using you as a sounding board. Do you know one of the most awkward things about streaming is? Telling jokes. That's something I still struggle with. Because as much as I enjoy, being funny, goofing around, telling jokes,
Cleaning comes before fixing.
it is so hard for me. Because I can never see how you react. And I might think it's funny,
Something's blocking the way.
but you might not. And how do I tell if a joke landed?
I need to clear the way first.
What is he missing here? Is it the body? Or is it the...
Chances of getting killed by a dinosaur are low, but never zero.
Thank you for the follow, I'm Burke Engine. Good morning, Sagona. How you doing? Not Sagona, Cornea. I saw the scene, I'm like, that's Nia. And my brain immediately filled in a different name. That was another thing. I had another big VTuber compliment me about my mic setup. I was just like, that was, oof. I felt so cool. I felt amazing. Oh, eat peas. Yeah, I'm sorry, Negatron. Kaleidoscope. I'm so sorry, Kaleidoscope. Whoa. Oh, I should do a puzzle game sometimes. I should do some of the puzzle games in the morning that I've been wanting to do.
More war supplies.
If you have anybody to thank, I'm not playing Bobby Playtime in the morning. If you have anyone to thank for my voice, you can thank. Hot Russian goth girls. Hot Russian goth girls is who you can thank for my voice. Honestly, when I was younger and I lived in Italy with my mother,
The dinosaur went on a killing spree.
I used a website called Vampire Freaks. Goth website, 'cause of course I was a little goth kid. And there was this Russian girl living in Texas who was crazy gorgeous, and I used to, of course, use every website as a dating website. I was one of those. We'd start talking and hitting it off, and she liked my voice when I talk softly at night, and I had to whisper and trying to barely make a noise, and so of course I leaned into it, trying to focus on those parts of my voice that she found more attractive. Turns out, most people find them more attractive. And so, especially during my formative puberty years, it really developed the way I talk and pace myself and speak.
That must have been a terrible joke. One hell.
Vladimir, exactly. Oh yes. Good morning, Catbox. How you doing? Let's get some rain noises. That's what I want next. And of course, when I talk faster and more excited, it's not as, soothing, but it's still fun. I still enjoy it. Gene. Let's see. No, it's totally fine. I like that. It's really cute. That's really cute. I am a big brother. I'm right at the right age to be old enough to have parental vibes with my little sister, but young enough to still be her brother. And I think that has really, really shaped part of who I am. I always want to see other people succeed and do well, and I think I'm very privileged that things weren't held back from me. I never had anybody jealous of me or had anybody trying to stop me from succeeding or growing. I met so many people who really just wanted to share what they did, who were excited that I showed interest in the things that they did.
Sorry, I am late for your deathbed confession.
And I think, which I can't tell if everyone is like that, because in my experience, either people will talk to you and tell you anything, or they just won't talk to you, which is fine, of course. But the things people share when you just ask them and you say, "Hey, this is really, really cool. Would you mind talking to me about this?" Don't tell them, never tell somebody to just show you how to do it or to do something for you, because that's off-putting. But if you show genuine interest and it's just the tiniest bit of understanding, they'll be excited to show you. No, I'm sorry, Crab Puff, you cannot. Back in your cage. Oh, I mean, let me talk about one guy. Rat Cousin. Rat Cousin is so cool. I've been watching his content on TikTok right now, and he's doing such interesting concepts. It's almost like a video game on stream. It's a whole Adult Swim series, basically. And it's interactive, and it's one of the most unique experiences I have ever seen. And he's very slow to grow. But I just said, "Hey, dude, your stuff's amazing. How do you do some of this?" And he got so excited. He got so excited to be able to talk about it. And I love that. I love when people want to share things.
Was it really that funny to the almighty VIPs?
Oh, I mean, cage is inflammable, honey. You're just burning yourself. Hi, Carmia. How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Parkour, hardcore parkour. I guess I'm also glad that my parents never viewed me as a threat. Because I know some kids have to deal with that. I mean, you don't know that. You can try it. Thank you for the follow, Catbox. I've seen so many people who have parents that just not view you as a threat even, but put you down. Oh, I don't want to hear you singing because you're not good. Oh, none of us in our family are good at singing. Oh, someone else is going to be more talented than you. I got lucky that my parents never really told me to stop. They definitely could have. And so, let me be the one to encourage you now. You can do anything, and I'm not just saying that like a teacher in kindergarten. It's going to take practice. It's going to take confidence. It's going to take the willingness to make mistakes. To accept that you're not going to be good at everything right away, and that that's not a problem. You're allowed to fail. You're allowed to acknowledge your small successes. Don't compare yourselves with others. Compare yourself with you from the past. Yeah. There's only one reason why kids learn so quickly, and it's almost like unsettling how quick kids can learn. It's because they're willing to fail. They're willing to fail over and over and over again. Because nobody told them yet that they shouldn't. Right. Oh, 100%. Oh, it is. It is one of the hardest things to do something, be laughed at, to make me hate a joke out of, just because, you weren't immediately good at it. And sometimes it's people not understanding. Sometimes it's people using your failings as a way to make themselves feel better. It's all sorts of things. Yeah. And honestly, that's how I learned things too, Katamia. I got into arguments online. And when somebody would be like, no, that's not right. I'd be like, it is. And they'd be like, no, it's not. I'm like, okay, fine. Because I cannot prove it at this second. Let me go get an actual proof. And I went online, and I'd find proof, or I'd find I was wrong. And sometimes I'd be a coward, and of course just block them and move on. And other times, I would admit I was wrong and move on. No, that's awful. I'm sorry. Well, and that's why, can I be honest? I love when people make me art. I get so excited about it, and it does not matter the skill level. because people made it for me. It's a gift. It's a present. And I'm just honored that somebody took the time to make something for me. Thank you. I'm into anybody, but I don't date viewers. The power dynamic is not equal in this situation. But I appreciate the interest. Hi, Zyla. Welcome. You know what you can do for others if you want to see other people grow? Tell them how much you appreciate what they're doing. And if you see a little progress, I mean, all the time, I tell all of my artist friends, you have grown so much because they have. I have watched one friend do art for just like a year, and seeing the way they've started like to put more effort into it and time and care and concern. I mean, they have grown so incredibly to the point where, like, I know they could easily see the difference, but to me, I'm like, or they can't see the difference easily, but to me, I'm like, this feels like they're made by different artists. Yeah. And the thing is, parents can only give you what they are given.
A way to spice up the bloodshed.
And so if they've seen, you know, they were always told, hey, this isn't good, or you can never be an artist, or you need to be practical, then they're going to tell you the same thing. Sucks, of course. And I wish parents could be there in the way that we need them to be, but they were kids too. Hey, Cart. I'm glad, Butterfly. I'm very glad I'm one of your favorite streamers. Make art.
Back like that.
One of the greatest things you can do in life is create. One of the greatest things in life you can do is create. The closest we get to God is when we make things. We leave a little impression on the world. Not saying we should want to be God, but you know. Make beautiful things. This is Crime Scene Cleaner. Oh, wrong chair. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the menagerie. This is Crime Scene Cleaner, and I love this game so much. This game nailed, like, I can talk all day about what makes a game good. But there's some reason why I can play this game, but I cannot play Power Wash Simulator. I know it hits just that feeling for some people, Power Wash Simulator does. But for me, it feels like, I don't know, mentally grinding to play Power Wash Simulator. You're giving me a job for no purpose or no reason except to make money that lets me buy more tools. Now maybe I can enjoy it now, but the fact that I have this threat, this need to hide the blood so I can get paid well to help out my daughter, and that I'm trying to cover up a crime, that's what hits. That's what I really like. No. And you like covering up because you're a villain, exactly. And I will say this. The biggest thing I've taken to heart, the thing that I think helps more than anything else, make it good. No, make it, and then make it good later. Make it, and make it good later. Because the thing is, you cannot improve unless you make. You cannot grow unless you do. If you sit there trying to perfect every little thing, you're not going to have the time to learn. And you'll learn more from 100 art projects, 100 failed drawings than you'll ever learn from one good one. Voice acting is the same. Streaming is the same. 1,000 failed streams are going to teach you a lot more than the one success. In fact, the one success can cause you more harm because you keep trying to recreate it over and over and over again. And it gets so frustrating when you can't do it. Go make. Good morning. Yeah, and always reflect. They're not failures, they're never failures. Because every time you make something, you succeeded in making something, and that is success. I haven't always been. I've done things I'm not proud of. I've been a person that I didn't like for a long time. You take the time to admit when you're not happy with who you are as a person, to spend time to grow. No one starts at the finish line. I've been through so much therapy, so much self-evaluation trying to figure out who I wanted to be. And now I think I'm finally getting to the place where I'm proud of myself. But it's taken a long time to get there. But it's okay. You're allowed to not be perfect. You're allowed to do things wrong. You're allowed to fail, to grow, to be. You're human. I do appreciate art. Yeah. I still have a lot I need to improve on, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of things I'll need to do to grow and learn and become somebody I am fully satisfied with. But I guess if I'm ever fully satisfied, maybe I'll stop doing, so it's a good thing I'm not there yet. Anyway. Alright. Maybe I should start with this big open area, but I kind of like cleaning the rooms. I think I want to do this room next. Yeah, let's do the smaller rooms. It feels nicer to tackle these smaller spaces than it does the bigger ones. You know what I mean? Oh, that's what I need to do. Okay.
What do you want?
Come on, Robo Boy. Let's see, this one's a mess, but it should be pretty easy to clean. There's a lot in here. Start back here. Go to sleep. Relax. Enjoy your nights and your mornings and your evenings. Big evil sniff, I know, right? It's kind of cute. Also remember, though, it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay. Everything can go perfect in your life. You can be feeling like you're achieving everything that you ever wanted to. But it is okay not to be okay. No matter the circumstance. It can be hard sometimes to give us that leeway. Even now, I have my bad days where I know I feel like I'm succeeding and I'm doing really well with streaming and I'm loving all that. And I have so many people around me who appreciate what I do. I'm still gonna feel sad sometimes. Allow yourself that. I don't know what it is in our culture where I feel like we have to have a reason for things, you know? We feel that there has to be a reason that we're sad or we're not feeling the best, or do I really have a right to be upset because, I mean, I'm sure somebody else has it worse than I do. But I'm not somebody else. And in my life, if my worst moment is me having a sandwich fall onto the ground, that's fine. You're allowed to mourn it and feel bad about it. I think the fact that that is the worst sadness I have in my life, which, I mean, I have worse, don't get me wrong, but it's good to experience sadness. It's good to experience all your emotions. And it's very important to let yourself feel. Experience your emotions. Let them exist. Don't deny them just because you feel that you aren't allowed to have them. In fact, I will say one thing I've learned about being sad is the best way to handle your emotions is to acknowledge them. Tell yourself, I'm feeling sad, I'm angry, I'm afraid. And that's okay. Exactly. If you suppress them, okay, I hope I've done enough inspirational little quotes for today. Not that I'm saying it just to be inspirational, but you know. No. No. You don't need to be productive. The point of emotions is to feel emotions. They're not there to do anything. They are a result. They aren't something to help you out or to do anything. They just are. Yeah. And you know you can handle them a lot quicker if you accept that they're there. You embrace them, you let them happen. And you can find the cause. You can find the reason they're happening. Oh yeah, no, I had an ex. It was awful. She couldn't remember chunks of our relationship when things went bad. And then she just kind of blocked them out, and it never felt like any sort of growth happened from any negative moments in our relationship. And even the positive moments she would lose because, well, they got lost with the sad. This makes me wonder if she remembers anything of it. Oh well. I'll feel a certain way about it. Embrace the way I felt. But it's a reminder that her life is hers to live, not mine. I wish her nothing but the best. I'm glad you're doing better, Gibbets, as well. One of you's playing guitar, aren't you? Valid. Very valid. Alright, let me do a little stretch here. Now, would you like a more cartoonish one or other one that I don't know how to describe? Yoshihiko. Your choice. Definitely your choice, whatever you feel like doing. I do love cartoony things, though. Goofy and silly is always nice. Remember, though, you can't always be happy. I'd say a better goal in life is not to be happy all the time, but to raise your base level, to be content. Exactly. If you always go for happiness, happiness is an outlier. You're not always happy. You live, you enjoy, you experience. My view has always been, well, here, I'll say it this way. They did a study on lottery winners, people who won the lottery. And they found that most people who won the lottery, does not matter how happy they were before, how miserable, how excited or whatever. They found out that all of them kind of reached back to where they were before they won the lottery. Their happiness levels were the same, nothing much changed. And it seemed like they hadn't really changed their lives much, and their base was always the same. It did not matter what they had, they gained.
It's time for a purge.
I think we're the same, you know. Our base levels don't really change much unless we put a lot of effort into it. Alright. Where does this go? There it is.
Red to red.
So we're missing one globe and one chair. I think I saw that globe earlier. One sec. Have you ever felt your taste buds waking up? Like, it's almost like a shock in your mouth. Where, I can't exactly describe it. You become more aware of your mouth. Your rat's side-eyeing me. Oh, what a little rat. I wouldn't say my tongue being too big. More of like, I guess if you've had nothing in your mouth all night except water, and suddenly you eat something, your mouth kind of loosens, as if you're preparing to eat more food. Like your tongue was a bit like tight and your mouth wasn't fully there yet. That probably doesn't make any sense. Taste your teeth. That sounds awful. That sounds like a nightmare. Do your teeth taste good? I hope your teeth taste good at least. I'm talking about tasty teeth. They got that teeth taste. Oh yeah, homie got that teeth taste. I just think it's funny. Gene 1 talks about concepts and growing and being a better person. Gene 2, homie got that teeth taste. I would say I'm a complex individual. Get you a man who can do both. I'm ready for a car ride. Yay. I have heard about that actually. Isn't that interesting? I think a lot of that, though, is that kids forget how they get into things. Kids are dumb. Kids are so dumb. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, adults are dumb too. Valid. And the panic. Oh man. And I was a kid. I panicked. I'll never deny that. No, I still panic. It's hard not to panic, especially when you're afraid. But we're human. We do dumb things. The motto of humanity. We're human. We do dumb things. And that's okay. See, child, this is how you should have done it. Why did I get the same result? Alright, I think we got all the blood in this one now. Looking good. It can be hard sometimes. You forget things, simple things. Sure. That's the thing. Somebody says it's hot. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I can handle that. You don't know my pain threshold. I've stuck my hand in hot ovens before to pull things out because I knew I could grab it and hold it for less time than it would do any permanent damage. Is that how you should do things? No. I never said I'm a good role model. I just said I'm a role model. That's fine. They'll always be there. And there are VODs, so if you want to see VODs, you can always watch afterwards. I know it's not as fun to see them after the fact, but they'll be there. Ooh, almost broke that. One second. Alright, I'm back. You made a Genshin meal? That sounds really cool. Tell me about that. I think my brain is slowly stalling a little bit. Might need a little time to catch up. Should I spin my round? Yeah, spin with your round. Why not? Go for it. Wonder where this one goes. Put it here for now. Oh, maybe. Guess that isn't the right painting. I'm really feeling the want to take a shower. I might go stream a little bit early today. I think I want to go take a nice... I just knocked over my bucket, didn't I? Yeah. So I'm gonna call it like 20 minutes early here. I just really, really want to go take a shower. Hope you all don't mind too much. Let me see if I have anybody. Are you tired? I am pretty tired. I slept a bit off. Go de-stinkify. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. See if we can find someone real quick. King Shade. See if we can find someone to raid into. Oh, whew, good. We're gonna go right into Oribu. We're gonna do a little EP read this morning. Boop, 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 boop. There's a little raid message. I'll be back later on this evening at 4 p.m. MST, as always. And I hope to see you all there, okay? Y'all be good, and thank y'all for hanging out. I had such a great stream. It was very fun. Mwah. Bye, lovelies.